everyone, I'm starting a video over. I had a really cool video with all the rain in the background. It's got a downpour, but my son called and he's out on the road working hard and I wanted to answer it, so I'm just gonna start over. I said I was gonna keep reading on the Declaration of Independence. So I had read the first part in the first video of the Declaration of Independence. Then I got to where we were talking about the King of Great Britain and the grievances, why we were going against trying to separate from them, and the grievances we had. So I'm going to keep reading, and I'm going to go ahead and read the first one that I had already read. It says, the history of the last part of the first part of the Declaration. It says, the history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And then they list those things. And while we're reading some of these, I don't know if I'm going to get through all of them. I'll try. But they had, but see if you hear anything familiar. Things that may be happening in our world today. It says he has refused, this is the King of Great Britain, he has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right made inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. Interesting. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. I really hope you go and read some of these grievances for yourself in the Declaration of Independence. He has solved representation houses, or he has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such disillusion, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent, to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone. For the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices to sit and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. Now remember, this is what we fought for, our independence, that we attained on this day that we celebrate. This is what we were going against. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops amongst us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for let me read that one again, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. See, we fought for our freedom from that. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. Ooh, boy, do I have a story. For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing wherein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. I think maybe we should write a list of grievances pertaining to the modern times. For suspending our own legislators and declaring themselves invested in the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. For taking away charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. Still going. He has constrained our fellow citizens. I'm fighting the mosquitoes over here, sorry. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by our legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. Sorry, not perfect. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies at war, and peace in peace friends. We therefore, the representatives, got dark all of a sudden, of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of the right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And then there's a big list. Let me turn this around. There is a list of the signers of this. In case you're wondering where I got this, this is the U.S. Constitution, and it's got other documents in it by the Hillsdale College. If you're interested in ordering that would be a great resource for you to read. It's got a lot of other documents. I got through it. And sorry it was so long, but you know what our founders did, what these people did for us, and the freedoms that we have today, they fought for. And we need to keep our republic. We were established a republic because they were coming from tyranny. They knew what tyranny was, and we've kind of forgotten because we have been so free and we enjoy those freedoms, and we don't realize what it takes to keep those freedoms sometimes. So I just encourage you to read the history and look into these things. You know what? Everybody have a great day and enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll, Lord willing, talk to you later.